After years of planning and discussion, we finally get another adaptation of The Crow, which looks much different than any of the movies. With original plans involving Jason Momoa taking on the role, we will see Bill Skarsgård take on the role of this dark vigilante, and FKA Twigs takes on the role of his lover. The trailer gives us some idea regarding the movie, but there's a lot we don't know yet. But it is exciting to see that it will be a different take on the character and the world, thus adding to the exciting roster of comic book adaptations. Let's look at some of the significant characters from the Crow franchise so far. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Eric Draven, the Crow. Eric Draven is the very first character who introduced us to the tragedy and the powers that led him to be resurrected and avenge his and his fiancée's murderers. James O'Barr created the character following the tragic loss of his fiancée to a drunk driver. Eric was a metal guitarist and had some expertise in martial arts before tragedy struck his life. He was resurrected by the Crow 1 year after the events of the double homicide to exact revenge on T-Bird and his gang of thugs. In his final movie, 1994's The Crow, Brandon Lee gave us one of the best interpretations of Eric in terms of both his physicality and suffering. His resurrection gave him powers of immortality and healing capabilities that ensured that wounds wouldn't affect him. One of the powers that turned out to be helpful for him was the ability to get visions of something upon having contact with it. While he is considered ruthless with his enemies, there have been interpretations of the character where he hasn't responded brutally to them every time. Shelly Webster. Shelly Webster is Eric's fiancée, and the pain of losing her drives Eric to take revenge on T-Bird and his crew. The character was inspired by James O'Barr's fiancée, who was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. Over the years, two different renditions of the character have seen involvement in two distinct manners. The 1994 movie saw her being reunited with Eric in the afterlife after he managed to kill the people responsible for their double homicide. However, in the TV show The Crow Stairway to Heaven, she has a more significant role as she becomes Eric's contact from purgatory and later unites with him for a larger purpose in the living world. Shelly's brutal death convinced the audience that Eric had to go through with the way of things following his resurrection. While Eric was thrown off the building to his death, Shelly managed to survive till the police came and died at the hospital. Shelly's words remained with Eric throughout his journey after his resurrection. If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is never to stop loving them. And it is this love that makes Eric stronger than ever.
You know, my daddy used to say, every man's got a devil.
Top Dollar. Top Dollar is the criminal boss for whom T-Bird and his gang work. This character was created for the film and is not in the comic books, but Michael Wincott fills it with all the menace needed for him. Top Dollar ordered T-Bird and his gang to empty the place where Shelly and Eric lived, and that was what led to the double homicide. He ran a business that included drug arson and even participated in some ritualistic events. Top Dollar got hold of Sarah as leverage for Eric, and since the latter was aware of Top Dollar's ways, he asked him to let go of Sarah in return for him surrendering. But Top Dollar threw her off the roof and went at him with his katana. Top Dollar used the moments when Eric focused on Sarah to attack him, but still succumbed to Eric's attack. He revealed all to Eric and then admitted that Eric had a lot of fighting spirit. But Eric didn't let him die quickly. Instead, he gave him a taste of the pain that Shelly went through before succumbing to her injuries. The pain from all that suffering caused him to cry blood, and he fell off the church and got impaled by a gargoyle structure.
Darla?
She's busy. Go play with your dolls or something, okay?
Funboy. Funboy is one of the first victims of the Crow's revenge, and Michael Massey played him in the 1994 film, while Ty Olsson had a recurring role as the character in the series. Funboy was amongst the 5 criminals who were involved in the murder of Eric and Shelly. He got brutally killed by Eric as he was dragged into the bathtub, and then a large crow shape was carved on his chest with some of his discarded syringes. He bled to his death. But things went a little differently during his final moments in the comic book. There, he wasn't as stupid as his persona in the film, and could interact with Eric intellectually. He confessed that what he did to Shelly was wrong, but felt that it hadn't hit him in any manner and said that he had done far worse things. Eric accepted his confession and overdosed him with the morphine to give him a painless death. Before dying, Funboy asked Eric to share that T-Bird had a slow and painful death. This sort of treatment gave him an exciting amount of depth and also worked with the theme that the comic book went for. Sarah. Sarah Moore is a young girl who was a friend of Eric, Draven, and Shelly, and she used to visit both of their graves to give flowers. She had a traumatic story of her own, as her mother, Darla, was involved in a horrible relationship with Funboy because he used to give her morphine. Her bond with Eric only grew after his resurrection, when he gave her Shelly's engagement ring to keep as a necklace. Before returning to the land of the dead, Eric went and hugged her, to which she told him that she loved him. This relationship significantly impacted Eric more in The Crow Stairway to Heaven, where he saw her playing a critical role by preventing Eric from becoming completely ruthless. While the comics and the 1994 film demanded the character to unite with Shelly, the same fate was not seen for the character on the TV series. Sarah was pretty responsible for this because she prevented Eric from killing his enemies. She said that although he might want to do that, Shelly wouldn't have wanted him to. The movie gave her character a role similar to the narrator, as she was the person who tied the entire story together until the very end. Gideon. Gideon owned a pawn shop in the Detroit neighborhood and was played by John Polito in the 1994 film. After the events of the double homicide, Shelly's engagement ring ended up with him, as he seemed to be involved with T-Bird and his crew. In the comic book, he didn't return the ring right away, and thus was killed by Eric when he tried to sneak in and attack him when Eric was looking for the ring. However, his fate turned out somewhat differently when Eric let him go into the film and asked him to tell the others that death was coming to them. When Gideon reached the pit to send the message, he saw the same fate as Top Dollar, who didn't trust Gideon and stabbed and then shot him. In the TV series, however, he survived, and later during one of the episodes, Eric identified him as selling hot dogs. Gideon told him that he left his previous job because he felt that pawn shops tended to take from people while selling hot dogs allowed him to give to people. Giving an ending like that was an interesting plot development, since a particular scene in the movie had Eric throwing rings at him, telling him the number of lives those rings belonged to. Ash Corvin, the Crow. Ash Corvin was another person resurrected by the Crow and was the protagonist of the 1996 sequel to The Crow City of Angels. Gang members killed him while he was working as a mechanic and a body shop owner, but he wasn't the only victim, as his son was also killed with him, which led to his resurrection to seek vengeance for his son's death. Following his resurrection, he came to his senses in Sarah's apartment, and the latter was also involved in the mythology of the Crow now, as she had seen visions of him and his son getting shot. She told him the purpose of his resurrection, allowing him to get on with it right away. Since this was a direct sequel to the 1994 film, there was even a reference to Shelly's ring, which Sarah was seen wearing. Just like the 1994 film, Sarah was again held hostage by the enemy, but she didn't survive this time. After completing his mission, Ash was reunited with his son in the afterlife. Judah Earl. Just like Top Dollar, Judah Earl was the main antagonist of the Crow in The Crow City of Angels, and he was responsible for ordering the death of Ash and his son. When asked about what she had done to the victims, Judah stated, "Pain is my power," and got them killed. But even though Ash had acquired certain powers following his resurrection, Judah was quite the opponent, as he almost managed to kill him. But Sarah stabbed him in the eye and got herself impaled by his knife to prevent Ash from getting more hurt by him. Before killing Judah, Ash quoted Judah, "Pain is my power," and commanded a flock of crows to go ahead and devour Judah. Alex Corvus, The Crow. Alex Corvus was the protagonist in the third film in the Crow series, The Crow: Salvation. This film was probably the worst attempt in the franchise and didn't live up to any of the movies that came before it. Alex was in love with Lauren Randall, but things took a drastic turn when she was stabbed multiple times, and the knife was planted in his car. He was falsely accused of the murder and was then sentenced to the electric chair. Upon resurrection by the Crow, he went after the corrupt cops who were involved with Lauren's murder and found the complete chain of operations associated with it. He managed to kill the captain, who was primarily responsible for her death, by the same means of Alex's death, using the electric chair. After taking vengeance for his and Lauren's death, Alex reunited with her in the realm of the dead. This rendition of the Crow was given speed as a power, as he appeared to be faster than normal human beings. Even his facial marks as the Crow were a result of the helmet that he was wearing while sitting in the electric chair. Vincent Erick. Vincent Erick was one of the antagonists to Alex Corvus in the third film of the series. He was involved in the murder of Alex's lover Lauren and gave the final blow that killed her. Erick stabbed Lauren 15 times and was involved in framing Alex for the murder. He was killed when Alex managed to crash his car with him to the side of a parked bus, which resulted in a gas leak and a subsequent explosion. Marvelous verdict. Now that we have some idea regarding the variety of characters who have played the primary roles in the Crow films over the years, we can have a confident expectation from the upcoming movie. Even though we're not sure to what level the film's brutality will go, we can be sure that at a time when even superhero films are going ruthless, they won't tone down things in the world of The Crow. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.